Restart of the NBA season, players and coaches trying to find a way to make their voices heard from the confines of the bubble in Orlando. Yesterday, the Toronto Raptors discussed the idea of boycotting Game 1 of the Round 2 series with the Celtics in light of the shooting of Jacob Blake by police in Wisconsin on Sunday. Brandon, I want to start the conversation with you. The Raptors and Celtics both had team meetings to discuss the right response here. A lot of teams around the country have been deciding and discussing what to do. What was your reaction to all of this yesterday?
Well, it took me back to 2016 when Colin Kaepernick first took that knee and the pressure that we all felt in the locker room, in the NFL locker room. Every single week, we knew that there was going to be millions of people watching. We knew that there were going to be thousands of reporters, people on the beat, covering to see who kneeled, who put their fist up, who locked arms, who said what, who didn't say anything. So I just thought about that moment. And then I also thought about me personally, how I felt. I thought that it was interesting that I was numb. And I really didn't understand and I didn't get it, because this was something, and this has been something that's been going on for a very long time. And it's one of those things where it's like, well, what is he talking about? You know, we all know this. You know, this is typical. So why are we talking about? Just move on. But then in 2020, you know, this year, all the recent acts of violence and the racial tension flaring, it has forced me to really sit down and feel things for the very first time in a long time. And, you know, when we hear about these NBA players talking about possibly not playing, I can only imagine the pressure and how they may feel. But I would say this, that they're doing a very good job, you know, because there's a lot of people that are feeling different things. I know for me personally, I'm forcing myself to have these uncomfortable conversations. I'm forcing myself to watch the news. I'm forcing myself to watch those clips, because now is the time to have these discussions. But now is not the time not to play ball, because this platform is so powerful. That's the beauty of being a professional athlete. There's thousands of people watching us live. There's millions of people watching us through television, through our phone. And that's our time to tell the world what we feel, how we feel, and push the conversation forward. Now, I would say this to the NBA. I think they're doing an amazing job pushing the conversation. I think the reporters are doing a phenomenal job. This is the first time that I can remember the reporters are leading with those questions. How do you feel? Tell me what's going on in your community. Adam Silver's doing a phenomenal job. If I'm the NFL, I'm taking notes, because these guys are using their platform the right way to make America better, to have these uncomfortable conversations. So I'm proud of these guys. I know it's hard, but we want to see you play, but continue to send your message.
Brandon, that was excellent. Thank you for sharing. And to illustrate one of your points, something that I saw yesterday, one of the best things I saw on the internet, was Taylor Rook's question to Fred VanVleet. I wanted to share it with you here. Take a listen.
You know, I know that, you know, pulling up your phone and seeing people that look like you being killed by the police can be a lot. So I guess my question is just, how are you? How are you doing mentally?
I'm a little bit, all over the place. Like I said, you start to feel guilty a little bit. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on for me back home. You know, people in my own community, dying not by the hands of police, but just by product of the environment. So you try to take all that in, and we're here and we're isolated. My family got to town yesterday. I don't get to see them for another week. So, you know, it would be nice to hug and kiss on my kids a little bit. But yeah, you just try to deal with it, and it's a lot to take in. I think we can't underestimate the trauma that we take in on a daily basis from our phones and watching these videos. And you know, you watch a guy get shot, you know, in front of his entire family, and then right underneath that video is somebody saying, hey, well, he should have just listened to the police. So like you take all that in, whether you register it or not, whether you realize what you're looking at or not, like you're taking that in, and that depreciation of life and you know, kind of you get numb to what you're looking at, and you almost start to question yourself, like, damn, like maybe he should have listened, and you start to think like, and then you snap back to reality, like, no, that's not right. So it's a lot of emotions to take in. You just try to stay level-headed and bounce ideas off of, we got a tight group here. So, like I said, we had a chance to speak this morning, and however you see fit to get that out, you do. But it's a lot, and we're in the middle of it. I mean, it's fresh. So it's fresh, but every time it's fresh, it brings back old stuff and reopens wounds. And my father was killed when I was young, so like it's just a lot of things that go into taking all this information in.
Wow.
And
Wow.
Nick, I thought that was just phenomenal. The amount of nuance and honesty that Fred VanVleet showed there, and again, a perfect question from Taylor. I think that the players, I understand that they're frustrated with how difficult it is to affect change and how they feel isolated by it, but I appreciate their honesty and transparency in the process, Nick.
100%, Kevin. And Dame has been the story and the star of the restart. And unfortunately, it's somewhat fitting that the social justice message that he chose on the back of his jersey is how many more? And the answer, tragically, is going to be countless until we fundamentally address the way policing is done in this country. The numbers up to this point in 2020 are jarring. 256 days so far this year. 244 of them, someone has been killed by the police. 751 people in this country have been killed by the police in 2020. 1 in 3 people who are killed by a stranger are killed by the police. So the how many more question is a real one. And that's a real question. What's not a real question is any type of debate about what happened to Jacob Blake. As Fred VanVleet alluded to, listen, if you watch that video and your reaction is anything other than horror, anger, and sadness, you are part of the problem. If you talk about complying, or if your reaction to watching a man get in broad daylight in front of his children, have 7 put in his back by the people we pay to protect us, is anything other than the system must change, any mitigating circumstances, you are part of the problem. And it brought me to the Raptors, who are the one team we've heard that is considering sitting out. So why would this be resonating with the Raptors maybe a little differently? Well, it might be because of what happened to their team president 14 months ago. If people don't remember or don't know, right after the Raptors win the championship, Masai Ujiri is on his way to celebrate with his team, and he gets assaulted by an Alameda County sheriff. The sheriff then lies about it, demands Ujiri be arrested, files a lawsuit against Ujiri. All of that happens, and it's all great. Well, it's a he said, she said. And then the full video comes out last week, and we find out that this sheriff, who, keep in mind, he's assaulting someone in an arena full of people, wearing a body cam, knowing there's cameras everywhere. He does that and still feels empowered to lie about it, still feels empowered to go on sick leave to this day, to the tune of reportedly more than $250,000 of sick pay the taxpayers paying him for alleged injuries he suffered. And by the way, why do they feel emboldened? Because even after that video came out, the Alameda County Sheriff's Office released a statement that essentially said, we believe our officer, not that lying video. So how does that relate to Jacob Blake? Because much like with Jacob Blake, if not for the video, what would the story have been? Do we believe that we would have found out he had nothing in his hands? He got 7 put in his back in front of his kids? That what actually happened would have been the statement? Or that it would have been much like, I would imagine, countless numbers of that 751 I mentioned. There's no video, so it's whatever the cop says happened is what the story is going to be. So to bring it back to how many more, until we fundamentally change policing, the answer is going to be too many to count. And unfortunately, Brandon, for many people, they're not going to have the video so the nation can see what really happened to them.
Jenna, before you go, let me just piggyback off of that really quick. It takes me back to 2016, again, with the weight of the world. One of the things that I found disturbing back then was how all of the pressure was on the football field and on the player. And that's why I do not like the Raptors or any NBA team thinking that they need to carry this weight by themselves. In 2016, 2017, I hated hearing celebrities and other athletes in other sports talk about what are the football players going to do. This is too big to carry for one player or one team or one sport. Play the game, continue to send a message. You guys have been doing a phenomenal job. And everyone in America has been doing a good job really talking about this conversation. Change is happening, but like you said, Nick, we need more change and need to start at the top.
You're right. And whether you think that the Raptors or any other team should boycott or not, this conversation is one that we will all continue to have. Really well said, guys. We're going to take a break and have much more First Things First.